The notion of youth typically conjures images of innocence. Yet, history's youngest serial killers starkly contradict this ideal. Their harrowing deeds are a disturbing testament to the dark potential that lies within. In this video, we explore the unsettling journeys of these individuals whose early lives were marked by acts of inexplicable violence. Amarjit Sada, India, 8 years old. In 2006, Amarjit Sada became notorious after confessing to the murders of 3 children, including his sister and cousin. This chilling case not only stunned his community in Bihar, India, but also attracted international attention due to his remarkably young age. Despite being only 8, Sada was held accountable for his actions, sparking debates about the criminal responsibility of minors. Sada was accused of committing his crimes using brutal methods. Reports indicated that, following the deaths of his victims, he displayed alarming behavior, including a complete lack of remorse. The police uncovered evidence linking him to these horrific acts, leading to public outrage and calls for a re-evaluation of juvenile crime laws in India. The case of Amarjit Sada highlighted not just his youth, but also the absence of an appropriate legal framework to address offenders of his age. The court ultimately sentenced him to a juvenile facility, raising questions about rehabilitating young offenders in light of the severity of their crimes. But Amarjit Sada is not the only child who shocked the world with his violent actions. The next individual on our list took things a step further, manipulating and terrorizing at just 11 years old. Mary Bell, United Kingdom, 11 years old. In 1968, Mary Bell was convicted for the murders of 2 small children in Newcastle, England. At just 11 years old, Bell strangled a 3-year-old boy and another child aged 4, leaving notes that detailed her crimes. This case sparked national debate due to Bell's youth and the brutality of her actions. The shock of such heinous acts committed by a child raised questions about the nature of evil and whether a young mind could truly grasp the consequences of its actions. Investigations revealed that Bell had a troubled background, characterized by abuse and neglect. These familial issues were taken into account when assessing her mental state. Her behavior during the trial was unsettling, displaying a mix of coldness and manipulation that surprised criminology experts. Many speculated whether her troubled upbringing contributed to her violent tendencies, or if she was simply a deeply disturbed individual. The courtroom drama surrounding her trial captivated the public, fueling ongoing debates about childhood trauma and its potential impact on behavior. After serving her sentence, Mary Bell was released, but her case remains a subject of study in criminology. The complexity of her psychology and the nature of her crimes raised important questions about the rehabilitation of young offenders and the legal system's approach to minors. Despite her release, Bell struggled to escape the shadow of her past, as her name became synonymous with one of the most chilling cases in British history. The lingering public fascination with her story continues to influence discussions on youth crime and justice. Mary Bell's chilling case gripped the nation, but what happens when a killer continues their spree without remorse? Prepare yourself for the story of someone who wouldn't stop after just one murder. Craig Price, United States, 13 years old. Craig Price from Rhode Island became notorious after being convicted of 4 murders before turning 15. His criminal activities began in 1987 and continued until his arrest in 1989. Price employed brutal tactics, including stabbings and strangulation, in carrying out his killings. The savagery of his crimes shocked the local community, prompting fear and outrage as residents struggled to comprehend how such violence could come from someone so young. As the investigation unfolded, details of his life revealed a troubled environment and a history of violence. Price was ultimately convicted for the murders of a mother and her 2 daughters, drawing intense media scrutiny and increasing concern about the judicial system's ability to manage juvenile offenders. This case raised critical questions about the effectiveness of rehabilitation programs for violent youth and whether the legal system could adequately address the complexities of adolescent criminal behavior. Craig Price's young age at the time of his crimes led to discussions about how minors are treated in the justice system. Although he was sentenced to life in prison, his case underscored the challenges of rehabilitating young people who commit extreme violence and highlighted the need for preventive measures. As public awareness of juvenile crime grew, Price's actions prompted calls for reform in how the justice system interacts with youth, especially those exhibiting violent tendencies. His story serves as a stark reminder of the potential for darkness within the seemingly innocent facade of youth. Craig Price's calculated brutality stunned the United States, but even he wasn't the last to raise alarm. Coming up, we plunge into the mind of a teenager who idolized infamous murderers. James Fairweather, United Kingdom, 15 years old. In 2014, James Fairweather, a teenager from Essex, was arrested for the murders of two strangers in violent attacks. At just 15 years old, Fairweather displayed a troubling fascination with serial killers, spending hours online consuming graphic content about their lives and crimes. This obsession raised eyebrows among his peers and family, who struggled to comprehend the depth of his dark interests. Fairweather's crimes were meticulously planned, which took law enforcement by surprise. He chose his victims randomly, and the brutality of his attacks left the community in a state of disbelief and fear. When police discovered evidence of his intent to commit a third murder, they quickly apprehended him, putting an end to his violent spree. Experts later scrutinized his behavior and motivations to better understand the psychology behind such chilling acts, revealing a complex interplay of influences that may have fueled his violent tendencies. The case of Fairweather has prompted serious discussions about rising youth violence and the impact of media on shaping perceptions of aggression. His lengthy prison sentence serves as a stark reminder of the potential for darkness within young minds and the necessity for effective prevention strategies. The ripple effects of his actions linger as communities grapple with the reality that even the most unassuming young individuals can harbor such dangerous impulses. Fairweather's story is a chilling example of how fascination can spiral into horrific acts, leaving many to wonder how society can better address these issues. But now, let's look at a case from the past, one of the most infamous boy murderers in history. Jesse Pomeroy, United States, 14 years old. Jesse Pomeroy, a teenager from Massachusetts, became one of the most notorious killers in U.S. history during the 1870s. At just 14, he was convicted of murdering 2 children and torturing several others, with his crimes marked by extreme cruelty. His sadistic nature earned him the nickname the Boy Murderer, and the horror he inflicted on his victims captured the public's attention in a way that few cases had before. Pomeroy was apprehended in 1874 following a string of child disappearances in his neighborhood, prompting a significant investigation that unearthed a disturbing pattern of abuse and violence. As details of his actions emerged, society was left reeling from the shocking revelations about a boy who had inflicted such harm. Despite his youth, Pomeroy faced trial as an adult, which highlighted the gravity of his offenses and the public's demand for justice. After his conviction, Pomeroy was sent to a reform school, yet the severity of his crimes continued to haunt the nation. His case is frequently referenced in studies of psychopathy, drawing attention to the complex nature of juvenile offenders and the challenges the legal system faces in dealing with such individuals. The legacy of Pomeroy's actions serves as a reminder of the darker aspects of human nature and the societal implications of youth crime. Pomeroy's reign of terror in the 19th century left a dark stain on history, but even in modern times, young killers emerge. Our next case brings us back to the 21st century, where a teenager sought out murder for a sinister thrill. Alyssa Bustamante, United States, 15 years old. In 2009, Alyssa Bustamante, a 15-year-old from Missouri, committed a murder that horrified her community. She lured her 9-year-old neighbor into the woods and killed her by strangling, stabbing, and slashing her throat. Bustamante had previously expressed a desire to experience the thrill of killing, complicating her case further. Bustamante had a history of mental health issues, and her personal background revealed a difficult family life. Following the crime, she was arrested and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, igniting a heated debate about the ability of young people to grasp the severity of their actions. Despite her youth, her deeds were viewed as exceptionally violent and premeditated. The trial of Alyssa Bustamante emphasized the necessity of addressing mental health issues in youth and how these factors can influence violent behavior. Her case continues to serve as a reference point in discussions about juvenile criminology and the justice system. Bustamante's desire to experience killing left her community horrified, but she wasn't the only one to commit such a heinous act at a young age. Wait until you hear about the 2 boys who turned a simple trip to the mall into a nightmare. John Venables and Robert Thompson, United Kingdom, 10 years old. In 1993, John Venables and Robert Thompson, both aged 10, committed a crime that shocked the United Kingdom: the kidnapping and murder of 2-year-old James Bulger. This chilling incident took place in Liverpool and received extensive media coverage, igniting a wave of national outrage. The brutal nature of the crime drew attention to the vulnerability of children and the potential for violence at such a young age. The 2 boys lured Bulger from a shopping center and led him to a secluded area, where they assaulted him and ultimately took his life. The shocking details of the case raised difficult questions about the criminal responsibility of minors and the factors that contribute to violent behavior in children. Society grappled with understanding how young individuals could commit such heinous acts. Following a highly publicized trial, Venables and Thompson were found guilty, becoming the youngest murderers in modern British history. Their case sparked intense discussions regarding the rehabilitation of young offenders and the impact of familial environments on criminal behavior. This situation compelled lawmakers to examine existing legal frameworks concerning juvenile offenders and consider reforms that would address both accountability and the potential for rehabilitation. The aftermath of the Bulger case not only shocked the public, but also became a pivotal moment in media history, illustrating the power of news coverage in shaping public opinion. Media outlets faced criticism for their sensationalist approach, leading to debates about ethical reporting standards, especially concerning the portrayal of children in criminal cases. This scrutiny continues to influence how similar stories are covered in the media today. Now let's turn to the unsettling story of a young man who claimed to have taken the lives of over 70 people, raising troubling questions about the fine line between vigilante justice and cold-blooded murder. Graham Young, United Kingdom, 14 years old. Graham Young, infamously known as the teacup poisoner, began experimenting with poisons at a remarkably young age. By the age of 14, during the 1960s, he started poisoning people around him, which ultimately led to his arrest for the death of his stepmother and other poisoning incidents. The deceptive nature of his actions set his case apart, showcasing a sinister side of childhood curiosity. Young employed various poisons in his experiments, often administering them in cups of tea. His exceptional knowledge of toxicology made his case all the more disturbing. His arrest prompted widespread scrutiny of societal measures designed to prevent such crimes, particularly concerning youths displaying dangerous tendencies. This situation highlighted the challenges of addressing and recognizing warning signs in young individuals, especially those whose behaviors suggest potential harm to others. After his conviction, Young was committed to a psychiatric hospital, where his fascination with poisoning persisted. His story serves as a significant case study in criminology, prompting discussions about the motivations behind juvenile crime and the complexities involved in their treatment within the legal framework. Young's infamy as a child criminal also sparked a broader conversation about the ethics of mental health treatment for young offenders. His case raised questions about whether children with psychological disorders should be treated within the justice system or through mental health services. The unique nature of his crimes has led to ongoing discussions about the intersection of mental illness and criminal behavior, emphasizing the need for tailored interventions that address the psychological needs of young offenders while ensuring public safety. Such discussions remain relevant in contemporary debates on how best to handle youth exhibiting potentially dangerous tendencies. Young's deadly fascination with poison left many questioning how such evil could lurk behind innocent eyes. But our next killer would take things to a whole new level of brutality, with a trail of terror that shook an entire city. Harvey Robinson, United States, 17 years old. Harvey Robinson, identified as one of the youngest serial killers in U.S. history, embarked on his criminal activities in Allentown, Pennsylvania, at 17 in 1992. Within just 4 months, he was responsible for the deaths of 3 women, using methods of strangulation and stabbing that demonstrated extreme violence. The murders instilled significant fear in the community, as the brutal nature of his actions shocked both authorities and local residents. Robinson's first victim was a 22-year-old woman he encountered on his way home. The brutality of the crime drew the attention of police, prompting a thorough investigation into the murders. Over time, a pattern emerged, allowing authorities to establish a behavioral profile that aided in capturing Robinson. His chilling and methodical approach attracted media attention as they closely followed the investigation. The circumstances surrounding his capture were equally unsettling. Robinson was apprehended after authorities received an anonymous tip linking him to the murders. During questioning, it was revealed that he had endured a troubled childhood marked by family violence and mental health issues. This led investigators to ponder the influence of his personal history on his criminal development, reigniting the debate about mental health among young offenders. Despite his youth, Robinson's trial garnered substantial public interest. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and his case became a reference point in the study of juvenile criminal psychology. This outcome raised questions about how to handle young individuals who commit violent crimes, particularly when there are histories of abuse and neglect in their backgrounds. Harvey Robinson's case remains a topic of discussion in criminological circles. Studies examining his life and crimes have fostered a deeper understanding of the factors that may contribute to violent behavior in youth. His story is frequently cited to highlight the importance of early intervention and psychological support to prevent other young people from embarking on a similar path of violence. Robinson's methodical approach to murder shocked law enforcement, but the list doesn't end there. Coming up is a killer who became notorious not just for his crimes, but for the twisted sense of justice he thought he was serving. Pedro Filho, Brazil, 14 years old. Pedro Filho, popularly known as Pedrinho Matador, started his criminal career at the age of 14 in Brazil, becoming one of the country's most infamous murderers. Throughout his life, Filho claimed to have killed over 70 people, primarily criminals, which led some segments of society to view him as a vigilante. His notoriety and violent lifestyle made him a central figure in discussions about crime and justice in Brazil. Filho's crimes were executed with extreme brutality, using methods that included stabbings and shootings. Many of his murders targeted gang members and criminals, reinforcing the narrative that he acted as a defender of justice. However, the reality was much more complicated, as many of his acts resulted in the deaths of innocent individuals unrelated to crime. This duality created a controversial image, generating both fear and admiration among different parts of the population. Throughout his life, Filho was arrested multiple times, but his ability to evade justice turned him into a symbol of the shortcomings of the Brazilian penal system. Despite his young age, his capacity for committing murders and escaping law enforcement piqued media interest, which extensively covered his story. This led to a more profound analysis of the social conditions that allowed a youth like Filho to evolve into such a prolific serial killer. Pedro Filho's story serves not only to analyze juvenile delinquency, but also as a warning about the risks of vigilantism. His life and crimes have fueled debate about how society should respond to violence and crime, and how to prevent similar situations in the future. Ultimately, his case underscores the necessity for a more compassionate and understanding approach to violent behavior among youth and emphasizes the importance of social intervention to redirect potentially lost lives. Throughout history, the cases of these young killers remind us of the complexity of human behavior and the various factors that can lead to such acts of violence. Age is not always an indicator of innocence. If you were shocked by what you've seen in this video and wish to explore more dark and captivating topics in history, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming videos. Thank you for joining us.